Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, I'm Joanne Victoria, and I'm the host of the Sanity IT Project podcast, and I partner with IT pros in telecommunications, technology, entertainment, and mass media industries whose work-life balance plan has imploded and who want more success, more confidence, more fun, and more inner peace. Here to help our IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life is Clay Green. As a leading instructor for the U.S. Navy, Clay Green was responsible for training hundreds of other reactor operators how to safely and confidently operate a naval nuclear reactor without being distracted by being underwater on a submarine with a torpedo chasing them and a fire burning! Over 1,000 new adult motorcycle riders are enjoying their ride today alive because Clay helped them understand how to master their subconscious and survival reactions. Today, Clay is focusing his efforts on leaders and professionals by helping them understand how their subconscious affects every decision they face, and then helping them integrate flow state safely to elevate focus and productivity to superhuman states. Welcome to our show, Clay Green.
Hey, Joanne, I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you here. So how can you help our audience? I mean, to me, focus is one of the most important things in the world. And if you don't have it, you screw up. So how can you help our listeners increase their focus and thereby increasing productivity?
You know, there's layers of this, Joanne. There always is layers. We can start with a very, very basic description of some core habits that I consider the foundation, or I can dive right into like what you can do today in the next hour. If you're listening to this right now and you're like in the lunch break, you can have the most productive afternoon of your life.
That's what I want. What can they do today?
All right. So the trick, Joanne, with implementing these habits and implementing these tactics, I got to point back to the foundation. You've got to be able to make the decision to implement the tactic. And if you're distracted, if you're overwhelmed, if you've got too much to do to implement that tactic, to take this little 3 to 5 minute session that I'm talking about here, if you're too distracted, if it's not valuable enough to do that, you've got to go back to the foundations. Okay, so hopefully we can get the foundation in. If not, you guys can find it on my website, and that's my foundation. I say it all the time, and it's a very, very easy to access resource. So the tactic today, ready?
Got it.
So here we go. After lunch. You come back after lunch, first thing I would suggest is breathing. You got to do some breathing. Stand up, do not sit down, move your body a little bit, and take some nice deep breaths. And while you're doing those deep breaths, have an intention setting moment. There's different levels of this intention setting moment. The beginning level is you just stop and you consciously think about what you've accomplished today. You consciously look back on the morning, or you consciously look back on the last hour, and you say, wow, I did that. It's done. Or if it's not done, you got this much done. And then release it. And then consciously look at the next hour, take a couple deep breaths, and set a very attainable, is that the word?
Yep.
Goal. Attainable. So you want this goal for the next hour to be something that you can attain. And you must be able to measure it in some way, because you want this immediate feedback, whether you did good or whether you did bad. It needs to be important. So that was like the first level. That's like the highest or the least impactful. You want to take it to the next level? Grab a piece of paper, grab a pencil and a pen, and when you're sitting down or when you're setting up for your next work session, first thing, set an alarm. Set an alarm on your phone, on your watch, on your computer, whatever it is. Set an alarm for somewhere between 40 and 65 minutes. Whatever that's just the generic suggestion for a work time. Some people it turns out to be more like 2 hours. Some people it turns out to be 25 minutes. But the key thing is to start testing it. Find what's a great work session time for you. Everybody's different. The magic number right now, the most common, most productive number, I think, is 52 minutes. So you set that timer, and part of your work session is you take about 2 or 3 minutes and you write down that goal that I just described. So I don't know, Joanne, can you share what a common goal might be for the next hour?
For me?
For you or for a listener, for your average listener maybe?
Well, for me, I would probably set an alarm for about 45 minutes. That's my max.
Okay.
Which leaves me safe and sane, and I have to get my butt out of the chair.
Amen. That is so important. I think you threw an exclamation. No, you threw an exclamation point after the fire. The key thing about this process and this whole state of flow discussion is definitely safety. So you're right. Getting your butt out of that chair, everybody, is vital. But go ahead, Joanne.
That's okay. Yeah, I have a project I'm working on now, and I have to do it in bits and pieces, and a 40 to 45-minute piece is really huge. And I'm writing copy for a new program, one of my programs, my virtual half-day program where I'm trying to collate content and to come up with certain aspects that I need to provide to a third party to do something with. And they have to make sense. They have to be sufficient so that they can be edited. And they have to be coherent. I already said that makes sense. They have to be valid. I have to focus on the validity of what I'm doing.
Sure. Here's one of my favorite, I've coined a term recently called Clay's cliches. Now, these aren't what I'm going to call original, and I guarantee you've heard what I'm about to say before. And this is what is probably the most important part of this tip or trick. Size matters. So in this particular reference,
in all areas it does actually.
It does. There's nowhere that size does not matter. Nowhere on earth. But and I'm not saying bigger is better. But in this case, how could you? The trick is, and the tactic that needs to be applied is you need to look at the next hour, and you need to come up with a way to judge either the quantity of work you've done, or the quality of work you've done, or another example would be someone that is in the evening time probably, and they're going to do their pastime or a hobby, and they might be sitting down to paint or play an instrument. One of my clients plays an instrument first thing in the morning, and he does it for 30 minutes. And he's not, saying I'm going to finish a sonata in 30 minutes. I'm not going to write new music or finish 10 songs, or I don't know. I don't even know. I'm not a musician. But his goal is to play and enjoy himself for 30 minutes.
Right.
So your goal may be something like write 3 paragraphs.
Got it.
Or maybe it's write for 1 hour and finish that hour knowing that you did something good.
Got it.
Or because you might not, this project that you're working on, it might take a total of 10 hours. It might take 2 hours. It might take 100 hours.
Right.
We don't know right now. So trying to break it down just number wise is challenging. You've got to break it down though. Here's the key thing. I'm talking about the state of flow, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the triggers to the state of flow is immediate feedback. So if you've got a pressing goal that you have to finish, that in an hour, in 50, according to you, Joanne, 45 minutes. In 45 minutes, I'm going to look at this goal and I'm going to judge myself, good or bad. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you judge yourself good or bad, because quote unquote, I didn't finish that goal or I didn't achieve my goal. That's not bad. That's information. That's valuable information. That tells you that in the next hour, you need to adjust. You need to tweak. You need to figure out how to reframe or rephrase or delegate or some other way to hack that goal down, around, and make it something that you can feel really, really good that you just finished. Right? It's all about the perspective.
Right.
So that's a big one. So I'm sorry. I apologize. You know what? I just started that. So the first thing is set that goal, and you write that goal down on a piece of paper.
Right. Always. People don't write things down anymore, and it has to go from the hand to the brain, and they don't get that. They get stuck on, it has to go with the hand. It has to be with the hand, not the computer.
So I'm sad that we only have 30 minutes, because I've spent a lot of years studying why these, what I call the foundational habits, why those foundational habits are so vital. Writing, journaling, or writing is one of those foundational habits. And I can take a minute real quick and give you a really quick example that explains why it's so important. But we need to finish this other goal setting thing first.
Sure.
So let's do that real quick. So you write down the goal, and let's just say I'm going to work on project X for 1 hour. And maybe the goal is to not be distracted by Facebook, not be distracted by email. I'm going to solely focus, or 45 minutes. I'm going to solely focus on this project for 45 minutes. And I'll know in 45 minutes, when that alarm goes off, I'll know if an email popped up and I got distracted. I'll know if I went and checked Facebook. So maybe that's the goal. But here's the $1 billion tip. The next thing on that paper you need to write is a 3-letter word. WHY, question mark. Why? And spend about 2 or 3 minutes writing a story explaining to you or to anybody that walks by or any stranger that finds your dead carcass why it was so important to you for you to accomplish that goal in the next 45 minutes.
Now that I like, because I think that's where people let themselves down. They do what they think is the right thing to do. They have a goal, they complete it, and then they're left with nothing. They did it, but it's not satisfying enough. And I think the why is vital. It's been missing in my repertoire. Oh my God.
Joanne.
You just changed my life.
We can talk. I'm looking forward to talking to you more, I assure you. So this why, you start at the top level, right? I'm going to just ad hoc on this, and this is what mine might say.
Go.
My goal is I'm going to work for the next 45 minutes and not allow myself to be distracted. Why is that so important? Well, it's important because every time I get distracted, I know that my productivity goes to the crapper. I know that I'm not as effective as I could be, and I want to be as effective as I can be. Why is it important? Maybe I'm working for somebody else right now. Maybe this 45 minutes of effort is going to somebody else's bottom line, and I'm getting paid $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever it is. Maybe that's the case, but you know what? Me working on my ability to maintain my mental focus is important to me, because I know that at 6 p.m. tonight, when I want to work on my project, or when I want to focus on my girlfriend or my child or my husband, I want to sharpen my mental ability to focus on what I want to focus on, when I want to focus on it, to the amount of intensity that I want to focus on it. And it's important to me. And then you start. So you write down why it's so vital to you. and then you freaking start. And that is literally the last step of what I help people develop in a flow launch routine. That is most often the last thing they do before they start their 50-minute work session, 45-minute work session.
Mm-hmm.
And then go. Now, here's the number one most important thing I've said so far. Set a timer. Because this is where things get dangerous. I had someone listen to an interview of mine. Actually, I did about 2 hours worth of training one time in a private Facebook group. And it was somebody else's Facebook group. And a couple of the people got together and they went and they researched the state of flow thing. And they decided they were going to put themselves into a state of flow for, a few hours one day. 2 weeks went by. They had basically been out of the apartment a couple times for grocery runs. They had slept a maximum of 3 hours a night, or 3 hours at a stretch. They had eaten horribly. They had not drank enough water. Their families thought that they had maybe become addicted to meth. They got a lot done. I mean, a lot. But it took them about 3.5 weeks to recover from that 2 weeks of state of flow. So when that alarm goes off, you have to stop.
Well, my understanding also as a sidebar here is that we sleep in 45-minute cycles, and that even though we're awake, we have 45-minute cycles, more or less, 40, 45, 46, 47, max 50. So if we maintain that 45-minute cycle, even at work, as you're stating, establish a time frame, set a time, something reasonable, people, because your blood stops flowing if the state of flow doesn't correct itself properly. I know someone who got a stroke because she was sitting continuously at her computer with her legs and,
Yep.
blocked and all that. And that happens easily, more than we know.
Oh,
But we've got a 45-minute sleep cycle, and you have to pay attention to that because that's the way our body runs on, those kinds of timely cycles. Okay, so you've got set a timer. What's number 2? You have 2 things.
Well, that was so the number one most important thing is set that timer. The right sized goal is vital. Then the next step is literally sit down and write the reason why why accomplishing this goal is so important to you. That's going to throw you into a state of flow. Now, to some level, in my mastermind, we go into the depth of figuring out how deep in the state of flow you're going and what you can do before and after each work session to elevate to the next level, so that maybe 2 hours a day you're hitting a level of 5 on a state of flow. Well, tomorrow you can try something different, and look at that, you're at a state of flow of 8 for an hour. Okay, what did you do that hour? Repeat that, right? And you can figure out what your triggers are, what everybody's triggers are. Unfortunately, I have so many people ask me, Clay, can't you just give me a checklist so that I can follow it? Unfortunately, the answer is no. We're all such unique creatures. I've definitely stopped doing kind of generic online training. I only work with small groups now because that's the only way to make this really effective. There's just too much variance between people. But that little tip, that little hack right there is huge when you start putting yourself into a state of flow. Knowing your why and going there.
Well, I'm sure there are many people listening to this who have done the 3-day, let's stay awake and conquer this challenge, and yet, and then of course it takes almost a month to come back from that because people think they are robots and they're not. And you realize, people, a lot of the listeners are younger, and younger people can do this, but as each decade goes by, you have less and less capacity to stay up 2 days in a row and do this kind of stuff. And my mind says, and my experience says, that if you go back on all the content or whatever you generated, it's not all usable. Um, there's a petering up and down.
I've got another really good example that may hit your listeners really hard. Professional gamers.
Yeah.
Professional gamers stop every hour.
There you go.
Ergonomic. If nothing but ergonomics. If we take away what Joanne was talking about the potential for a stroke, we take away the long-term effects. We take all that away and we just look at the ergonomics. Please, right? There's no discussion. Stopping every 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and taking a break. This is a non-negotiable if you're in my mastermind. This is one of those things where everybody does it, and we analyze it. We figure out if it's 45 or 40 or 20 or 50 minutes for you, or 60, but definitely those breaks are vital. Would you like me? Would you let me to bounce back and talk about that writing thing real quick?
Absolutely.
All right. So the 3 foundational habits that I insist everybody follow and build these habits are meditation, journaling, and practicing gratitude. I'm not even going to talk about how important and vital meditation is. Suffice it to say, Tim Ferriss was BSing people when he was promoting his Tools of Titans book. Have you read that book? Do you know that book, Joanne?
No, I haven't read it. I glanced through his first one, but I didn't.
Tools of Titans is an awesome resource book. You can't go read it. But in promoting that, he said that 80% of the people that he interviewed, over 200 people he interviewed, best in the world, most successful, he was promoting that over 80% of them had a morning meditation habit. Okay, cool. Then on page 507, and if anybody has that book, go get it. Look it up. Read the first 2 or 3 paragraphs on the page of 507. And what it says is, what about the other 20%? Oh, all of them have some other form of mindfulness habit, which means 100% of those amazing people that Tim Ferriss geeks out on, and if anybody knows Tim Ferriss, they know who I'm talking about. They know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
100% of them have some kind of mindfulness practice. So meditate. Now, journaling, writing things down. Check this out, Joanne. Let's do a quick experiment. You ready?
Got it.
Think about a purple elephant. Okay, you just pictured a purple elephant, right?
Got it.
Now say purple elephant.
Purple elephant.
Okay, now think about how many synapses had to fire for you to do each of those 2 things. In the first case, you imagined a purple elephant. In the second case, you imagined it. Then you had to get the muscles and everything to work with your throat, your larynx, your tongue, your mouth, your lips. All that stuff had to work. And then you said it. And then you heard it. And so all the synapses to control all that and to sense all that were firing off when you said purple elephant. Now, grab a pen and a paper and write the letter P of purple elephant. But stop. Stop before you write anything past the P. But you're going to write purple elephant. So you write the P, right?
Got it.
Look at your shoulder. Your shoulder is the most complex joint on the body. Then your elbow, then your wrist, and then all those tiny muscles in your fingers. Think about how many more synapses had to fire to get your hand to put that pen in the right place to just start writing the P. Then, have you ever watched any of those YouTube videos with people strapped into a virtual reality headset and they just fall over?
I've vaguely seen that, yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, AI, yeah, VR. Yeah.
Here's why. Because your visual cortex uses over 75% of your brain in the normal human in normal situations. About 75% of your brain is processing the visual cortex information. So looking down at that paper and putting that pen in the right place and drawing that one little line and that one little hump Your brain, we can't even calculate how many more synapses were used for you to draw the P than, say, purple elephant. So I'm a brain guy, and it's all about using your brain and getting those synapses wired the way that you want them to be wired when you want them wired that way. The single most impactful thing you can do to your brain, aside from some forms of meditation, is write. And I'm not talking about typing. I'm talking about writing.
Yeah, I agree. I buy my yellow pads by the dozens, and I have them all over. I always have more than one in use. I have pads by my bed where I take notes in the middle of the night if I wake up, or certainly before I go to bed. And this is what I've been doing for years. In fact, when I first started on the computer decades ago, I thought I was going to have a very difficult time because it wasn't writing with a pen. I said, I cannot write an article or a book on the computer because my brain did not function that way. I had to reframe.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so people need to write because of the fact that it uses 75% of the brain, and we need to use the brain in order to connect, because people, even though new technologies are coming forward every minute, every hour of every day, they're not all beneficial to a human being, in my opinion. If you're not, well, if you're not using your brain properly,
if you watched any of the summary videos about Zuckerberg testifying in Congress and about today's quote unquote technologies, you're 100% right. That's why I giggled. Because I'm just like, yeah, that's an understatement.
Well, even reading the summaries and even reading what he said was giving me a headache, because it was just so much cock and bull, and made up, as this whole thing is. Everything, but people don't realize that everything is made up. So, but you're helping people use their brains and reconnect their synapses so that they can put themselves in different situations knowingly with all of the tools necessary to be a success.
Exactly. The real quick to connect it and kind of wrap it all together, meditation, in my opinion, there has two main functions. One, awareness. Two, reprogramming, rewiring. Now, what I discussed today was a very simple, very specific, very strategic, very tactical, very low-level tactic to help people be more productive in the next hour. Now, when you start scanning this back and you start talking about making your life better, overall success, improving your relationship, all that, then you start talking about different specific tactics that need to be applied or could be applied. And again, everybody's different, to help that person, to help me, help you, Joanne, help whoever, improve their relationship with their daughter, or their relationship with their parent, or their boss, or produce more, or be more focused, whichever, or build a business, or be a better CEO, or whatever. There's very specific things that you would do in those situations, obviously.
Okay, everybody, I want to let everybody know that Clay Green's social media addresses, as well as his website address, which is enthusiasticlay.com. That's the word enthusiastic. Add the LAY to it, and it will sound like enthusiastically when you say it, but look as if it's enthusiasticlay.com. And he's all over Facebook, and I'm going to send you those addresses too. It'll be on Clay Green's podcast page on my website at askjoannevictoria.com/podcasts/. And also his Instagram address is Instagram/enthusiasticlay, LAY 13/. I'll have all of these, or most of these, under Clay's website, Clay's podcast.
Thank you, Joanne. I also, and this is this is a particularly timely, I guess. I just released this a new mini course that I call it a mini course. I shouldn't call it a mini course. It's a 5-day course full of 10-minute videos or so, full of these tips and tricks, so that in 5 days you basically develop a couple key habits and tactics and develop that superhuman focus and productivity. Would you like me to spell that out, or would you like me to
spell you two things? Number one, spell it out, and number two, you can email it to me, and I will add it to your on your website page, on my website, on your podcast page, and also on the Sanity Project Podcast Facebook group page.
So this is going to be a course that I eventually am charging for, but right now it's free. So if a listener hears this on the Sanity podcast in the future and you want it for free, send me a private Facebook message and I'll sneak it to you. Okay, so here's the shortcut though. It's a bit.ly link. So bit.ly/focus and productivity. Pretty simple.
Focus alpha, focus and productivity.
Focus and productivity. bit.ly/focus and productivity. The way that you were saying my website name cracks me up. It is a play on words, and it's supposed to be enthusiastic clay.
Okay, well, it was. I didn't know how to describe it to everyone listening.
I know. It's tough, isn't it?
But it's not enthusiastic clay, because to be enthusiastic clay would require another C.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm right and Clay's wrong.
Yes, ma'am.
His own website address.
It works.
Enthusiasticlay.com. He says it's enthusiastic clay. I say it's enthusiastic Lee. But either way, you'll find him. Look below the recording down below on the page that you're listening to, and you will see the correct spelling of his website address and be able to contact him. Well, we've had fun today. And I'm grateful that you were here, because you certainly gave me the why to me has got like 5 stars on it. And
wow.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with that. Because that just makes things a lot easier. I will strongly suggest that anybody who's listening who wants a free copy of the True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life, go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com. It's on most of the pages. You sign up and you'll get an immediate download. Take care, everybody, and I'm grateful that you were all here. And be sure to refer this recording of Clay Green, enthusiasticclay.com, to all of your friends, all of your coworkers, because that's the only way to get his message out. Rave reviews on iTunes are welcome, but they're only good for iTunes. They're not good for everybody else. Thanks very much for being here. Bye, Clay.
Joanne, thank you so much. It was fun. I'll see you soon and look forward to chatting.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to askjoannevictoria.com and continue the conversation on my podcast page. And get a free copy of my book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's askjoannevictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.